In this presentation, we will record a transaction related to raw materials that are used and that will be applied to a job within QuickBooks Pro, QuickBooks Desktop. Here we are in our third QuickBooks problem. We have the open windows open. You can open the open windows by going to the view dropdown and selecting the open windows list. We're first going to take a look at our Excel worksheet to see what our objective is. We're on the 1.7 tab. We're going to be recording this second transaction. So within Excel, to record the second transaction, what we're doing here is we're going to say that the direct material transferred from raw materials and were applied to these three jobs. In other words, we had the $400,000 in raw materials. Now we need to apply them to the jobs. As we do so for the GL account, notice we're not going to be putting it to work in process here, but we're just putting it directly to the cost of goods sold account. So this is going to be this method. We're using the same method as we did for the second problem, applying it out to the cost of goods sold account. Then this needs to be supported by the job cost sheets over here. So we've recorded this out. We've got the raw materials started at 400. That's what we had last time. Now it goes down by the 350 down to 50. The cost of goods sold goes up by the 350 here in the debit direction. So then we have to support that with the job cost sheets. Within the job cost sheets, we're breaking that out between 100,000 for job 14, the 170 for job 15, and the 80 for job 16. The sum of all those adds up to that 350,000. Then we can reconcile the cost of goods sold that's currently here to what's in our job cost sheets by thinking about the total of the job cost sheets adding up to that 433,000, and then what's on the trial balance being the 350. The difference is that beginning balance of the 41 and the 42 of the 48,000. And that will reconcile the cost of goods sold. So same as we did on the second problem here. So this is the same exact Excel worksheet. The difference when we put it into QuickBooks, however, is we're going to want more detail down here in the cost of goods sold. We're going to break this out then into the more detail of all of our different kind of cost of goods sold accounts, mainly the different accounts with relation to what we're dealing with now, which is the direct materials. We want to break out the direct materials to all those different categories. How could we do that? Let's go back to the QuickBooks file. We're going to do this with a check. Now remember what we have in QuickBooks, if I go up to the reports up top and I go down to the accounting and taxes, and then we go to the trial balance, changing the dates from 01/01/20 to 12/31/20, then what we have here is raw materials of the 400,000. We need to be taking that out of raw materials, 350 of it, reducing that and putting it to the cost of goods sold items. And then within cost of goods sold, we want to break out between the different cost of goods sold categories, and we want to apply this to the jobs as well. The way we do that, the tool we use to do that is going to be the items. So we cannot just do what we did in QuickBooks and do a journal entry, because we need the items to do this driving connection. Therefore, we're going to write a check in order to do this, and we're going to use this check in a kind of a funny type of way. Again, it's going to be a zero type of check, because we're going to use it to basically do the journal entry of decreasing the inventory account and recording the cost of goods sold. Nothing involving cash, but I need the check. We need to use the check in order to use the tool of the items. So this is we're going to go into the checks. Now you may want to set up a different checking account to do this, because it's going to be a zero check, which you may not want in your checking account. So you might want to create another account just called like a clearing account. And this is just going to indicate to your system that, hey, this should be zero at the end of the day. We're just using this in order to use the check feature. So I'm going to set up the clearing account. Then we're going to go through and say that it's going to be a zero check. Now down here, I'm going to start with the item side of things. Now, and once again, I'm going to kind of randomly pick the items. The items need to be up to, because we have materials for 100,000 for job 14. And so that's where we'll start. So we need 100,000 for job 14. So I'm going to go into here and we'll start picking items to pick up to get to that 100,000 for job number 14. So I'm going to say if I select the drop down, we're going to pick this one up, and I'm going to say this is going to be a quantity. Let's say the amount of, let's say 15,000. This is job number 14. It's going to be billable. And then on the second, let's pick some on the bottom here because we already have some items in job 14. So I'll pick this one. And we're going to say this is going to be 8,000. And this is job number 14. Let's pick another one. We're going to say this one. This is going to be, let's say, 10,000. This is job number 14. And then we're going to pick another one and say this is going to be for 16,000, job number 14. This one is going to be for, let's say, the 12,000, job number 14. And this one we're going to say is going to be for 25,000, job number 14. And then we'll pick another one here. It's going to be for the 15,000, job number 14. And let's change this to actually be 14,000. And so bottom line, this adds up to 100,000 for job number 14. So that's going to tie out to here. We've got the job number 14, 100,000. So let's keep that for now and do these as a separate check. That might be an easier way to do it. Now, I don't want the other side to be hitting the checking account. So the other side, I'm going to go to the expenses side. And then on the expenses side, I'm just going to write this to the other account I want to be involved. Now, remember, the items account, what's going to be affected there? It's driven by the items. This is the item. How do we know which account's going to be affected with these items? Well, we go to the lists up top. We go to the item lists. And if we select any of these items we have set up, they're all going to some cost of goods sold account. They're all going to a cost of goods sold sub account. So those are all going to be going to cost of goods sold in one way, shape, or form, as they say. And then if I go back to the expenses, the other side I want to be bringing down the asset account. The asset account we set up as the raw materials inventory. So I'm going to select the raw materials inventory. I want this to be a negative 100,000. And the bottom line is that we should end up with a zero balance up top. So I'm using the check just as a tool to use the items in order to apply this to the job, to record our journal entry in such a way that we can apply it to the job. Okay, so then we're going to say save and new, and we're going to do this again for the second job. So I'm going to say save and new, and we'll do the same kind of thing. We're in the clearing account, and I actually probably didn't have the right date there. We should have done this on the 7th. Let's go back. I'll go back, and I'm going to change the date to up to the 7th. Not that it matters too much, but then I'm going to say next, and yes. Okay, let's do this again. This is going to be on the 7th. And once again, we're on the items tab. So we're on the items tab. We're going to select random items. They're going to start at the bottom again because this job has already been in progress and we've already chosen some of the top items. We need to get up to this 170,000. So I'm going to go back over here and say this first item we're going to say was 30,000, job number 15. And then the next one we'll pick up the wall covering. We're going to say is 21,000, job number 15. The next one we're going to pick up the surface finishing. We're going to say that is 32,000, job number 15. And then the next item we're going to say is going to be the stucco. We're going to say that is 29,000 for job number 15. And we need to get up to the 170. So stucco. And then we got this one, which we're going to say is 15,000 for job number 15. And then we've got the flooring. I'm going to say that is 26,000 for job number 15. And then we have this one. I'm going to say this is 11,000 for job number 15. And then we've got this one. I'm going to say is 25,000 for job number 15. And we needed to get to, what was it? The 170. So let's bring this one down we need to get to the 170 on it. So we're at 164. So we're going to need another 6,000 here. So there's our 170. So I've just made it, and if you don't have the exact combination I have, then that's okay. The bottom line is we need to get up to the 170 for the materials. So 170 for the materials for the example problem. And then we're going to go back over and say, now I want to go to the expenses side and report the other side of it. So this is going to be hitting the cost of goods sold accounts. The other side on the expense side is going to be going to the raw materials inventory. And that's going to be a negative 170,000. So that brings us back down to 0. That's what we want. Let's do this one more time. I'm going to go save and new. And we get to do this one more time, and then we have to stop because it's the last one. We got the 80,000 in job number 16. So if I go to job number 16 in the item side, we need to get up to 80,000. Now I'm going to start from the top down this time because we haven't done anything for number 16 yet. This is the first, it wasn't open. We just opened it in the current year. So we're going to say that this one is going to be for 12,000. And this is going to be job number 16. And then the next one is going to be, let's say, I put 120. Let's say 12,000. And let's say this one's 21,000. And that's going to be for job number 16. So we'll say job number 16. And then the next one we're going to say is 16,000. We need an item here. That's what we need. So we'll select the next item. I'm going to select the flooring. We're going to say this one was, let's say 9,000. And that's job number 16. And then the next item we're going to select is going to be this one. We're going to say that that's going to be 21,000, job number 16. Then the next item we're going to say is the paint. We'll give that at the 10,000. And then we need the, let's say, plastering. And that's going to be 8,000, job number 16. This is going to be job number 16. And this should actually be 7,000 because I think we only need 80,000. There's 80,000. If I go back, 80,000. All right. So bottom line, this adds up to 80,000. This is what we've entered into here. 80,000. These are our items. That's going to be going to cost of goods sold. If I go back to the expense tab, then I'm going to choose the account of the assets account that we set up for the raw materials and put this in there as a negative 80,000. And so there we have that, brings us back down to 0. Let's see if this does what we would expect it to do, which is, of course, to have the transaction, these going to the cost of goods sold accounts, these decreasing the inventory account, and the items driving the accounts that are going to be reflected on the job cost sheets that we can then reconcile to the cost of goods sold. Let's check it out. We're going to say save and close. And yes. And then if I go back to the trial balance, I'm going to say don't show me this again, and yes. And there we have that. And now you see all the cost of goods sold items here that basically we're setting up. These are going to be adjusted within the cost of goods sold. If I take a look at this in terms of the profit and loss report, we can get a subtotal for it by going to the reports drop down, company and financial profit and loss report. We're going to be running this for, let's say 0101 or 20 to 12/31/20. And then that's going to give us our cost of goods sold. So we can see our cost of goods sold for this time period is going to be that 350,000. So note all the detail we have here. But if I go back to our Excel sheet, it's basically the same thing. It's that 350,000 we had in a cost of goods sold. We just now grouped it into different categorizations on the income statement. So if I go back over here, we got the 350,000. If I select any of those items, then of course this is going to be from the checks. If I select a check, there are the checks. Closing this back out, closing this back out. Now let's go take a look at our job cost sheet. And we want to check the job cost sheet to make sure that we assigned a job to all the costs that we have set up. So we're going to basically go up top here. We're going to then go to the jobs time mileage. And then we're going to go to the jobs versus actual summary report. And then that's going to add up to, I'm concentrating here on the total cost of the 433,000. Now that looks right. That's what we have on our Excel sheet. Note, if I go to the Excel sheet and we looked at our total jobs, these are all jobs that are open right now, are at that 433,000. Now, so that ties out and we can reconcile it, right? We can reconcile it and say there's the 433,000. The difference between that 433,000 and what is on the profit and loss report is the 83,000 beginning balance, right? So we could do that kind of reconciliation, which you're going to need to do if you need to make any adjustments at the end. And you can also check it out this way. So in other words, if I was to take this 433,000, something happened there. We got the 433,000 minus, and I want to tie it into the profit and loss report. I go to the profit and loss report, and I say now I got 350 minus the 350,000. The difference is that 83,000 for all the open jobs, right? And if I go back over here and see what that is, I could run the report as of 12/31/19 to 12/31/19, and there's the 83,000. Now you could also run this report for 01/01/20 to 12/31/20. Let's do that one more time. 01/01/20 to 12/31/20, and then you're going to get that 350. That will tie exactly, and that's a good check too, because that'll tell you if you didn't apply something to a job. If you forgot to apply something to the job, this number may not tie out. That number should tie out directly to what's on the profit and loss. Now, if I go back over here, what that number doesn't exactly help with is if we want to adjust from what we're doing now in the system we're using, the timing differences we have to say more of a completed contract or percentage of completion. We're going to need to know what that 83 is, and we'll do that like we did at the end of the last problem. But just to see if those two reports tie out, you can use this number, and that'll help you to see if you didn't apply a job to one of the items. Now let's take a look at an example of a particular job detail report. If we go to the jobs and we go down to the job estimate versus actual detail report, let's pick the second job now, job number 15, and say OK. Then we have the detailed report. And again, we're concentrating here on the cost section. And if we scroll down through here, we see all the costs broken out into, of course, much more detail now. This is basically the material items that we have here, and we see much more detail within them.